realize that higher taxes on farmers and truckers means more expensive for groceries for struggling families?
Hear, hear.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to Minister of Finance.
Well, Mr. Speaker, every farmer knows that you reap what you sow. What the Conservatives are sowing every day in this House is the distrust of Canadians because they're insincere when they weaponize people's struggles for their political gain while voting against every single affordability measure that puts more money in Canadians' pockets. That includes an income tax cut for $22 million, the Canada Child Benefit, cutting the consumer carbon tax, childcare, dental care, over $2,000 of support, direct benefits that put more money in Canadians' pockets with young children. How can they say they're...
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
So angry, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are standing in food banks and food bank lines at record numbers while these Liberals pat themselves on the back. Exactly. Feeding kids starts with making food more affordable. This is the same government that forced millions of Canadians into a food bank and now saying that people should be thankful for the programs that they can't quantify and can't deliver. Just 10 years ago, you used to be able to go grocery shopping for a week and spend $160. It's now more than doubled to $340. So when will these Liberals admit that their policies have failed and Canadians are struggling?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, what feeds Canadian families is good paying jobs and a strong social safety net, both of which the Conservatives oppose. They can't even bring themselves to recognize when job numbers exceed expectations month over month over month. 3 months in a row, the Canadian economy has added 181,000 new jobs, including 54,000 this month. We've seen a drop in the unemployment rate in this country. Conservatives can't even acknowledge when the Canadian economy does well because it doesn't fit their narrative.
Exactly. Well said.
The Honourable Member for Sherwood Park for Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, let's look at the actual job numbers that member was trying to reference. 9,400 full-time jobs lost in the last month. Now, these Liberals want to try to pretend that they're doing better by adding those part-time numbers in. But the fact that Canadians are desperate, they're turning to part-time work because full-time jobs are not available, and they desperately need that part-time work to feed their families. That's not something to celebrate. A continuing decline in full-time jobs in this country is not something to celebrate. When will the Liberals recognize the reality that Canadians are losing the full-time work that they need to provide for their families?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have good jobs numbers to share. This morning, I am proud to say that last month, 50,000 young people got a job. In November alone, 21,000 young people found a job in October. The numbers are trending in the right direction. We are there to support young Canadians. We are proud of our job numbers on this side of the House.
For Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, in that member's province, Quebec lost 35,000 full-time jobs.
35,000 full-time jobs lost in Quebec, and that parliamentary secretary, that minister says that this is an improvement, that this is good news. Mr. Speaker, it's shocking that this government would celebrate a significant decline in full-time work. Canadians are looking for full-time jobs they can provide for their families. When will they stop congratulating themselves and recognize the problem?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Jobs and Youth.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, the reality is right now, the members across the way have ground committee work to the halt. We would like to send C-15 to committee. Doing so would allow us to make the necessary investments that Canadians need right now. It is shameful, Mr. Speaker, what is going on in our committees. I call on the members across the way to do things differently and allow committees to move forward. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister said that he could be judged based on grocery prices. Now we live in a country where 20% of people have to depend on food banks, a country where groceries for a family of 4 will cost $1,000 more in 2026. A country where the prices of beef, pork, and chicken are all going up. Mr. Speaker, that is Liberal Canada for you, the country where grocery bills have more than doubled since 2015. When will the Liberals stop their inflationary spending so Canadians can finally put food on their plates? The Honourable Secretary of State. Mr. Speaker, we will take no lesson from the members across the way who voted against every single opportunity to help out people. They are against children, they are against families, they are against school food, they are against investments in affordable childcare, they are against $13 billion of investment in affordable housing. That is shameful. We are against them. Through Budget 2025, we will be supporting families. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, 36% of Quebecers are living some sort of food insecurity. 3 million Quebecers. There were 3 million visits to food banks in Quebec. Now the Prime Minister is jet-setting around the world to ignore the fact that 20% of his people are in food lines. That's Canada after 10 years of Liberal government. This is unprecedented. Quebecers are hungry. It will cost them $1,000 more to buy groceries in 2026. Mr. Speaker, why does the Prime Minister care more about his stock index than his people who are suffering? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's clear that if we are to help children and families, we must invest in their future, and that's what we do in Budget 2025. We are investing in youth employment, affordable housing, food at schools, affordable childcare, dental care. All of this helps Canadian families. We are proud of these measures, and it is a shame that the members across the way refuse to support them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Gaspésie, Les Îles de la Madeleine, Listagouge. Mr. Speaker, today, the Prime Minister will be meeting Donald Trump for the FIFA World Cup draw. But they shouldn't be talking about sports. They should be talking about the economy. The Prime Minister was elected in order to protect us from the American president. He has not secured the victory he wanted. Yesterday, we even learned that the Prime Minister will be ignoring the main request of our forestry sector. He is refusing to support our businesses by protecting them against anti-dumping and countervailing duties. When will we see wins instead of more concessions? Mr. Speaker, it is true that we must continue our negotiations with the United States. We will be at the table for these negotiations. At the same time, we are diversifying our supply chains. We are signing new free trade agreements. For example, an agreement with Indonesia and an agreement with Mexico. Today, here in this House, we are fighting to support our economy. That's not what they are doing. They vote against us at every opportunity. The Honourable Member for Gaspésie, Les Îles de la Madeleine, Listagouge. Mr. Speaker, this is not the first concession that the Prime Minister has made because he's scared of Donald Trump. He abandoned the digital services tax, which would have forced American web giants to pay their fair share. Then he abandoned the global minimum tax rate, which was meant to fight tax evasion. I guess he wants to free up some money for the president's new ballroom. Now he's abandoned our forestry industry by refusing to respond to their main request for support. When will the Prime Minister stop backing down and start defending Quebec interests? The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and all of us are here to help out everyone, not just one province, not just one territory, all Canadian jobs, all Canadian industries. We are here to build the strongest economy in the G7. We are building new supply chains, finding new partners all around the world. Why, Mr. Speaker? Because the world is changing, the geopolitical situation is changing, and we are adapting to these changes. The Honourable Member for Cote Ward, Kawawa-Chikamach-Natasanen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister should be working to appease our forestry workers, not Donald Trump. The Prime Minister has sold them down the river by refusing the main demand of our forestry industry: support with dealing with the Americans' countervailing and anti-dumping tariffs. Since 2017, the softwood lumber conflict has been raging on, and Trump's tariffs have worsened an existing situation. Our industry is on the brink. people are being laid off. When will the federal government stop neglecting our forestry workers? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, obviously the unjustified trade war that the United States has brought on us on softwood lumber is unacceptable. We're working hard to resolve. Today, the United States Chamber of Commerce called on the Trump administration to drop tariffs on lumber. We are seeing that the pressures are beginning to build. We'll continue to work at all levels to resolve this, and we'll continue to provide supports, and we welcome suggestions from members opposite on what supports to bring.
The Honourable Member for Barrie South
The Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by the price at the grocery store. Well, the verdict is in. The 2026 Canada Food Price Report warns that grocery costs will rise by 4 to 6% next year, meaning the average family of four will pay nearly $1,000 more, bringing annual food costs to over $17,500. 1 in 4 Canadian households is already food insecure, and Canadian families, seniors, and single moms are being squeezed at the checkout. Why aren't these Liberals cutting their inflationary spending, the industrial carbon tax, and their new fuel tax so that Canadians can afford to eat?
Hear, hear.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, the rise in food prices is difficult for family, and that's why we're helping lowering the grocery bill through, for example, the National School Food Program. But Professor Sylvain Charlebois, the lead author of the recent study that my colleague just quoted, said, and I quote, "Obviously, what comes back every year are the impact of climate change on prices, noting in particular the effect of drought on the price of beef. If they want real solution, they have to start to look at real facts."
The Honourable Member for Barrie South Innisfil.
Blaming climate change for the rise in food prices. The Liberals will say things have never been better, but the reality is that things have never been worse. In Ontario, there were 8.7 million visits to a food bank, and grocery prices are expected to cost families $1,000 more in 2026. The Prime Minister said he should be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Well, the verdict is in, but there's still time for him to enter a plea deal on his lower grocery price promise. Will he plead guilty of breach of trust, fraud, or both?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, it's good jobs and a strong economy that are going to benefit all Canadians. So Statistics Canada this morning announced that we created 54,000 net new jobs, 50,000 for young people alone. Mr. Speaker, we stood up in the House last week. Last Friday, we talked about how our GDP is growing. Today, we're telling you that wages are up, rents are down, unemployment is down. Youth unemployment has dropped by almost 2 points in 2 months. That is no accident. That is a plan that is working, and that is a plan that these Conservatives continue to vote against.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister asked to be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Canadians obliging, and the result is a political receipt he doesn't want to read. After 10 years of the Liberal government, Canadians already pay $17,500 a year for groceries, and Canada's food price report confirms that next year, Canadians will pay an extra $1,000. When will this Prime Minister finally stop driving food prices through the ceiling and end this daily grocery store misery for Canadian families?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, it is jobs and a strong economy that is going to benefit every family in this country. And that's why it is significant that just this morning, Statistics Canada confirmed that we have created over 54,000 net new jobs this past month. When jobs are there for families, families benefit, Mr. Speaker, but it doesn't stop there. Just yesterday, we actually announced a new early learning and childcare deal in Ontario. So parents are going to be saving over $10,000 a year on childcare. Mr. Speaker, those are the kind of real actions that actually help Canadian families, and these Conservatives vote against them.
The Honourable Member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, as a single mom of 2, I know firsthand that moms and dads want affordable groceries they can buy themselves.
Hear, hear.
They do not want to rely on a government handout. This Prime Minister is giving better deals to his Brookfield buddies than everyday Canadian families.
For sure.
Moms and dads want affordable, nutritious groceries, and again, that they can buy themselves. Will these Liberals ever stop living in their own elite bubble and start living in the real world with the rest of Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, as I said yesterday, we announced a new childcare agreement with Ontario that's going to save families up to $10,400 per year. But don't take my word for it. Christina Meadow is an Ontario mom here in Ottawa, and she says that early learning and childcare has changed her family's future. She says having access to high-quality, affordable childcare is the biggest peace of mind that you can ever have as a parent. So we are happy about the announcement today, Mr. Speaker. That is delivering for families, delivering for kids. Why won't the Conservatives support affordable childcare?
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
The latest food price report confirms what Canadian families were well aware of, that grocery prices are still going up. The average Canadian family will spend an additional $1,000 on groceries next year, and this is 7 months after the Prime Minister said Canadians would judge him by the prices at the grocery store. Well, that's what Canadians are doing, and they're wondering why the Liberals are increasing their industrial carbon tax, which makes it more expensive to grow, ship, and sell food. They're wondering why the Liberals aren't stopping their inflationary spending. We've given Liberals the solutions. Will they please steal these ideas too?
The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
I want to start with a quote from an infamous author and professor. Climate change is our agri-food sector's greatest challenge, and we need to address it. You know who said that? Sylvain Charlebois, the food professor, on November 1st, 2024, in response to my question at committee. What's interesting is that the members don't take the time to read the report. They will not acknowledge that climate change is real at their conventions. They have no plan to fight climate change, and yet the very person that they quote every day cites it as their greatest challenge for our food system, that is increasing food prices.
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Mr. Speaker, groceries are so expensive, Canadians can't afford the bologna the Liberals are selling. $17,500. That's what the average Canadian family will have to spend on groceries this year. A single parent in my riding making minimum wage would need to work 1,000 hours, half their year, just to put food on the table for their children. This has doubled since the Liberals took office in 2015. The Liberals may not do their own grocery shopping, but Canadians do, and they can't afford it. Simple question to the Parliamentary Secretary. How much is a litre of milk?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
I'm happy to say that I do my own grocery shopping and all the cooking in my household as well. But what's interesting is that Canadian families want an empathetic, compassionate government that actually acts on the challenges and struggles that they're facing, not one that weaponizes their struggles for political gain. We're standing up for Canadians every day. We've offered an income tax cut for 22 million Canadians. We've cut childcare fees by more than in half, saving families $10,000 per year. The Canada Child Benefit put hundreds of dollars in Canadians' pockets. That's how you feed families for generations to come.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford, South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said he should be judged by grocery prices. 8 months later, they've only gone up. Today's 2026 food price report says things will only get worse. Grocery bills have doubled since 2015. Next year, Canadians are projected to pay $1,000 more on groceries. Instead of lowering costs, the Liberals keep spending more and raising taxes, which drives up prices, especially for food. When will the Liberals cut their inflationary spending, scrap the industrial carbon tax, and cancel their new fuel tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's a shame that the Conservatives have attached their political fortunes on the failure of the Canadian economy, on the struggles of the Canadian people. They rejoice when our economy does bad. On this side of the House, we're looking for indicators and signs that our plan is working. And guess what? Today we had another sign that our plan is working to build a strong Canadian economy, which is 54,000 new jobs added to our economy. That's 181,000 jobs added in just the last 3 months. Real GDP has grown faster than expectations. Inflation is within the Bank of Canada's target range.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Lamatapédia. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' climate betrayal did not only cause the resignation of the member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Two experts of the advisor group that was supposed to advise the Prime Minister about climate change also walked out. They said that they were used to being ignored, but now they're not even being heard. In other words, the Prime Minister is silencing everyone around him who cares about the environment, be they ministers or experts. How can the Liberals support a Prime Minister who refuses to listen to science?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. And we would like to express our gratitude and thanks to Mr. Donner and Mademoiselle Abreu for their years of service and leadership at the Net Zero Advisory Board. Their important contributions to the board have helped guide our government's work in advancing decisive climate action in Canada, and we're better off for their contribution.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Lamatypidia. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is ignoring environmental science. If the recent resignations did not make this obvious enough, let's hear what the government's lead science advisor, Mona Niemer, had to say. I asked her about the Liberal plan to build major projects like pipelines by getting around every piece of legislation other than the criminal code. She described this as nightmarish. She also confirmed that the Liberals had never consulted her. Do the Liberals find it reasonable that the government is completely sidelining their lead science advisor?
Mr. Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I want to express our thanks and gratitude to Mr. Donner and Mademoiselle Abreu for their years of service. Our government values the role of the Net Zero Advisory Board as an independent expert body that provides important advice to inform climate policy. We remain committed to working closely with the board, and we continue advancing Canada toward a net zero future.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The holidays are approaching, but for many families, the season will be far from festive. Almost 85% of Canadians have stated that their main financial concern is the cost of food. There was a record 2.2 million visits to food banks in 1 month. Many people in these food lines are even children. Families are cutting back, skipping meals, and eating less nutritious food just so they could make it to the end of the week. How can the Liberals claim to be helping families when their policies are literally starving them? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of State. Mr. Speaker, we are there for families. We are investing in their needs. For example, we have invested in affordable childcare, which has reduced daycare costs by 50% nationwide. This helps families pay rent and helps them pay all sorts of bills. The same is true for the Canada Child benefit. This benefit assists families. However, members across the way continue to oppose and vote against these measures. The Honourable Member from Montmorency-Charlevoix. It looks like we've got Scrooge at the helm, Mr. Speaker. Since the Prime Minister took power, production and transportation costs have shot up. Energy, fertilizer, fuel, all of these costs have risen. Farming debt has increased by more than 14% in 1 year, the greatest increase since 1981. Almost a quarter of Canadians would eat more healthy food if they could afford it. 20% would buy higher quality food. Every aisle in the grocery store is more expensive. This government of Scrooges is proud. When will the Liberals admit that their policies are costing Canadians? Mr. Speaker, it is clear that no parent should worry about their ability to feed their child. That is why we have invested $13 billion in affordable housing to help families. We have also invested in childcare, dental care. All of these measures will help families keep more money in their pockets so that they could afford their daily costs. We will continue to invest in these support measures and in families, including children. I would encourage members across the way from helping us with this important work. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Perhaps he should be careful what he wished for. Grocery prices are climbing, families can't afford basics, and 85% of Canadians say food costs are their top concern. Canada's food price report says next year families will pay $1,000 more for groceries. When will these Liberals cut their inflationary spending, the industrial carbon tax, and their new fuel tax so that Canadians can simply afford to eat?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, instead of harping on about imaginary taxes that the Conservatives know aren't real and aren't affecting the price of food, they should think about their own conduct in this House. They should think about their votes. And when it comes to our budget does some key things. It improves access to the Canada Disability Benefit. It strengthens EI to protect workers. It increases investments in social and affordable housing. It makes the National School Food Program permanent. You know who considers those 4 things a priority, Mr. Speaker? The Daily Bread Food Bank in Toronto says those are the 4 things that we should be doing to help Canadians with the price of food. That's what we're doing.
The honourable member for Mission, Matsqui, Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, there's 8 million kids in Canada, and the last I count, the national program's not even feeding 2 million. So while families struggle with soaring grocery bills, small businesses are also being crushed by these same inflationary policies and the loss of purchasing power by Canadian families. Canada has 100,000 fewer entrepreneurs than it did today than in the year 2000. That's 100,000 less businesses able to support families and communities. Rising costs, higher taxes, and endless red tape are driving people out of business. Yeah. When will these Liberals admit their taxes and red tape are
the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Speaker, it appears the members opposite have spent so long in the opposition benches that they become so disagreeable that they can't even agree with the things that they've advocated for, which is a shame. Tax cuts for 22 million Canadians, for example, or a GST cut on new home purchases of $50,000 to families. Automated tax benefits. How about tax deductions for businesses so they can invest in themselves to boost their productivity and growth? That's what increases real wages relative to the cost of living. That's how families get ahead. That's how you support Canadians. Why don't the Conservatives get on board?
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
This Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by the prices at the grocery store. The average weekly food bill was $159 when the Liberals took over, but today it has doubled in the big cities. That doesn't address remote areas like Grand Cache and most of my riding, where it's much worse. New fuel standards, industrial carbon tax, and inflationary spending all increase the cost of transportation. When will these Liberals consider the consequences of their legislation and stop the measures so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, when will the Conservatives recognize what farmers already know, which is that the industrial carbon price has zero impact on food prices? We've heard this from experts in the House. But Mr. Speaker, let's talk about what is going to benefit all Canadians. Good jobs and a strong economy. Today's Statistics Canada says we're doing both because we've created over 54,000 net new jobs in this past month. Employment is down. GDP is up. Wages are up. Rents are down. That is delivering for Canadians right across this country.
The honourable member for Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, as a newcomer to politics, I'm finding the Ottawa approach to problem solving quite perplexing. I'm proud of this government's focus on delivering for hardworking families through tax cuts for 22 million Canadians, by making sure every kid gets a healthy meal at school, investing billions in infrastructure projects, and creating good jobs in our local communities. But these plans for tax breaks and infrastructure investments are being met with obstruction. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance tell us why are practical solutions being reflexively blocked when hard-working families expect us to work?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary and Minister of Finance.
Well, I'm proud too, and I'm proud to serve with the honourable member from Cumberland Colchester.
Yes.
There's only one reason, Mr. Speaker, that key pieces of legislation are not moving through this House, and it's the opposition that are blocking it in committee and in this House. They're wasting time and blocking key legislation. It's the opposition that's stopping a first-time homebuyer's tax savings of $50,000 for first-time home purchases. It's the opposition that's stopping the creation of tens of thousands of high-paying jobs. It's the opposition that's stopping the National School Food Program from feeding more hungry children.
The honourable member for Caribou, Prince George.
Last week, Drax Pellet Plant in Williams Lake announced it was shutting down. This week, Domtar Pulp Mill in Crofton announced a permanent closure. That's over 1,000 direct and indirect jobs lost. Another 1,000 families who are facing financial uncertainty. It's been 10 years. 10 years, and the Liberals have failed to negotiate negotiate a fair softwood lumber agreement with the U.S. The Prime Minister is now in Washington for a third photo op, this time for FIFA. Will he stand up for our devastated forestry families, or will he once again kneel before Donald Trump?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Speaker, obviously, we stand with the affected communities. It's terrible to see the job losses. The Minister has talked to Domtar. The Minister has talked to the BC Minister of Forestry. We want those jobs back, and we're going to work very hard to get them back.
Member for Caribou, Prince George.
They say they stand with the workers who have lost their jobs. Have they stood with them in the unemployment line? Have they stood with them in the food bank line? Have they stood with them when the bank forecloses on their home? Have they stood with them when they've lost their business? Because that's the reality our families are facing. I'm not sure that member fully understands the dire situation we're in. We have entire communities that are drying up in our province of British Columbia. When will this Prime Minister get serious about forestry, protect our families, grow a spine, and stop caving to Donald Trump?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Speaker, we stand with them. We stand with them with supports that allow them to keep those jobs. We stand with them when they lose those jobs and are in those unemployment lines with more supports there as well. And we stand with the companies by investing in them heavily. We will always stand with our forestry communities. And I invite the member to work with me to bring even more supports to those communities, because it is vital to Canada's culture and economy.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
This Prime Minister invited Canadians to judge him by the prices at the grocery store, Mr. Speaker. 7 months later, shoppers are still going home with half the cart for twice the price. And the latest food price report says it's going to get $1,000 worse next year. Meanwhile, another mill is closing in my community, Mr. Speaker. As more people lose their jobs, anxiety is the only thing up more than the cost of food, as even full-time workers start to rely on food banks. When will the Liberals cut their inflationary spending so Canadians can afford groceries again?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Governing House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, there's been a lot of good news that's been coming out over the last few months related to jobs. When you take a look in terms of the month of September, you had over 50,000 jobs created. Most of that was in manufacturing, Mr. Speaker. In the month of October, you had over 50,000 jobs created. Most of that was in the province of Ontario. Today, we get the announcement of 60,000 plus jobs. In total, that's well over 150,000 jobs, Mr. Speaker. That is actually good news, and the members opposite should recognize when good news hits you in the face and say, this is a good way for our building a strong...
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, and these Liberals must be shopping in the fantasy aisle because Canadians are still getting skewered at the checkout. Conservatives voted against policies that make life more expensive. In this Parliament, these Liberals voted against our motions that would have saved jobs, kept communities safe, and lowered costs. Inflationary Liberal spending is driving students, seniors, and now full-time workers to food banks. When will the Liberals stop raising taxes on the people who grow, transport, and sell our food so Canadians can put food on the table?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Governing House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, talk about fake outrage. Time and time again, we get the Conservative Party of Canada preventing legislation from being able to pass. Even the budget legislation, the implementation of the budget. Day after day we hear Conservative bafflegab as opposed to allowing legislation to go through. Day and day we hear obstruction on important legislation like bail reform legislation to make our communities safer. Whether it's providing supports for Canadians or providing a sense of security, the Conservative Party is more focused on the Conservative Party than they are on the Canadians. Shame on them.
The Honourable Member for Order. The Honourable Member for Kenora, Kiwatinuk.
The Prime Minister says he should be judged by prices at the grocery store, but 7 months later, prices are skyrocketing and Canadians are struggling to put food on the table. And Canada's food price report shows that Canadians will have to pay an extra grand to buy groceries next year. To make matters worse, sawmill workers across the country are facing job losses as their mills close. The Prime Minister promised he would negotiate a trade deal. He's failed to do so, and now he just says, who cares? So, Mr. Speaker, with more Canadians struggling to buy groceries, with more job losses and more broken promises. What is it going to take for the Liberals to finally care?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's hard to take the Conservatives at their word in this House when they stand up every day and complain about the Canadian economy. Well, we receive good news on this side and rejoice in it. The economy is actually faring well. The IMF just came out with a report and said Canada's economy is weathering the shocks of the tariff war or the trade war better than expected. We've heard that message again and again. The numbers show the same thing. Job numbers exceeding expectations 3 months in a row. Real GDP growth. Real wage growth over 33 months in a row. That's more money in Canadian.
The Honourable Member for Kenora, Kiiwetinoong.
Mr. Speaker, a report from the IMF means absolutely nothing to the workers in Ear Falls Sawmill who have lost their jobs. They don't want more big government programs, Mr. Speaker. They just want their jobs back. The Prime Minister said he would negotiate a win. That hasn't happened. He said that Canadians should judge him by prices at the grocery store, and prices keep rising. By every standard the Prime Minister has set for himself, he is failing. So if he can't negotiate a trade deal, will he at least cut the inflationary spending, the industrial carbon tax, and the new fuel tax, Mr. Speaker, so that Canadians can afford to buy groceries?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, when our government moved forward with the first round of major nation-building projects that would create tens of thousands of good-paying jobs and add to Canada's GDP and economic output, what did the Conservative leader say? He called those projects pathetic. That's what he stood out there in the media and said about projects that would create tens of thousands of jobs. And yet here we are being lectured by the Conservatives today about good job numbers that exceeded expectations 3 months in a row. They can't seem to even get their story straight. Whose side are they on? Are they on the side of Canadians? Are they on the side of affordability?
The Honourable Order. The Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Fertilizer production is essential to our Canadian farmers. Over 118,000 people are directly or indirectly employed by the industry. But this Liberal government's industrial carbon tax puts producers at a global disadvantage, burdening them with up to $1.3 billion in carbon costs by 2030. Domestic fertilizer producers can't pass those costs down to our farmers, as they have to absorb them to compete toe-to-toe with the rest of the world. When will this government finally level the playing field and scrap the industrial carbon tax on Canadian-made fertilizer?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, our farmers are at the front line of something very difficult, very challenging. They are fighting against tariff, the disruption of trade, and they're also about extreme weather events. So that report really clearly said, Mr. Speaker, that increasingly violent and unpredictable weather patterns are disrupting agricultural production, creating supply challenges, and continue to influence food prices across Canada. So, Mr. Speaker, the solution is to stand by with our farmers.
The Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
The farm and fertilizers challenges ended with the industrial carbon tax. To add to that billion-dollar burden, this government's mandatory bulk fertilizer label changes will cost the industry over $120 million. The Liberals' 30 by 2030 fertilizer emissions target could also lead to $48 billion in losses. These costs are ultimately passed on to Canadian farmers and, by extension, Canadians at the grocery store. Why is this government so obsessed with making it harder and more expensive for Canadian farmers to do what they do best? Feed our country.
Hear, hear.
Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I fully understand how fertilizer use is very important for a producer across country and to supply the world with really healthy food. So we're working on with the farmer, with the industry, to find solution to a fertilizer made in Canada, Mr. Speaker, because in Canada we grow the best food in the world, and we'll continue to work with our farmers to ensure their long-term competitiveness and help protect the environment.
The Honourable Member for Lanark Frontenac.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency has adopted a perversely restrictive interpretation of the bulk labelling regulations under the Fertilizers Act. If enforced, the interpretation will impose $120 million in compliance costs on retailers, which will be passed on to farmers to achieve quite literally nothing. If the Liberals are truly committed to reduce red tape, they could instantly override the CFIA by making marginal clarifications to these regulations. Will they do so? Or will they allow the CFIA to drive small retailers out of business and drive up costs for Canadian farmers?
Great. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, this new government is committed to reduce the red tape across the government, but especially with our agency such as CFIA and PMRA. Mr. Speaker, in committee we just finished a study on how to effectively reduce the red tape across the sector to support our producers, to support our farmers and increase their productivity. On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we work with our farmers and with our agency to find concrete solutions and help the productivity.
The Honourable Member for Hull Elmer. Mr. Speaker, 36 years ago, on December 6th, 14 young women were killed at the Montreal École Polytechnique, a horrible event that shook the entire country. It is our collective duty to fight against gender-based violence. Can the Parliamentary Secretary tell this House about the measures taken to honor the memory of these young students and to ensure that an event like this can never happen again? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. On December 6th, 1989, time stopped, and 36 years later, our society still bears the mark of that event. We must continue to fight gender-based violence. On the one hand, we are working to strengthen the criminal code, and on the other, we are working on prevention. We have an action plan that has invested more than $500 million. The security of women throughout the country will always be our priority. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Chair of the Transportation Committee. The Liberals with Canada Post has given a great many contracts to certain companies, and for over a month, the chair of the committee has forced us to use emergency measures to make him do his work. Will the chair of the committee finally call a meeting next Tuesday, or will the chair continue to hide behind his minister?
Transport Committee, the member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Du président libéral démontre un mépris pour cet
Mr. Speaker, this government has shown contempt for the committee. The chair has continued to suspend the committee for so-called technical reasons, and it never came back. This is an abuse of power. We're talking about road safety and the safety of Canadians. This is serious and urgent. The Liberal chair must decide whether he is at the service of the government or at the service of Canadians. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, I have finally gotten a decent answer. The Minister of Transport has ordered members to harm the work of the committee through Liberal filibustering. This is a waste of money. It's throwing money out the window. Why is the Minister trying to avoid transparency? Why is the Minister trying to hide the truth from Canadians? Why is the Minister sanctioning these obstructionary tactics? Why is the Minister preventing the committee from doing its work, which is harming the road safety of people in Beauce?
Mr. Speaker, we are unwavering in our support for victims and their families that have been impacted by the exploitation and illegal operation with the trucking industry. Now, the Conservatives are always looking to block things in committee. In this particular committee, Mr. Speaker, they have an opportunity to focus on solutions, yet they bring up problems, like they bring up problems here. When the time comes, Mr. Speaker, to vote on solutions for Canadians, they bring up the problem, vote against the solution every single time.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland Clark.
Through the chair of the Transportation Committee, it shouldn't take opposition parties calling emergency meetings to get a parliamentary committee just to meet like they're supposed to. But that's exactly what the opposition parties have been forced to do. When we did have a meeting, during the middle of the meeting, they suspended and ran out the back door. So will the chair confirm that there are scheduled meetings, or will it just run out the back door again?
Vice Chair of the Transport Committee.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal chair's conduct shows contempt for this institution. He has refused to convene meetings 3 times and even suspended one for technical reasons before leaving, never to return. Worse, a Liberal MP has been filibustering for the past month, not only resisting hearing from victims, but deliberately delaying recommendations that could save lives. Every day those recommendations are stalled, they put Canadians at risk. That is shameful. A Conservative notice of motion has been filed condemning this misconduct. The Liberal chair must decide, is he a political operative serving the government or an impartial chair serving this country?
Honourable member for Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, Ukrainians are fighting bravely for their freedom in the face of unwarranted aggression from Russia. Right now, Ukraine needs military resources such as fuel, medical supplies, communications equipment, and winter gear and more. Can the Minister of Foreign Affairs update this House on how Canada and NATO are supporting Ukraine at this time?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Speaker, thank the honourable member for the question. Over the past 3.5 years, the Government of Canada has provided approximately $22 billion multifaceted support for Ukraine, military, financial and economic support. And then this week at NATO, I committed another $235 million for Ukraine in defense of their sovereignty and security, and to ensure that their soldiers can make it through the winter as they fight on the front lines against this illegal and unjustifiable invasion. Canada will always stand for the rules-based international order that has kept us all safe since the end of the Second World War.
The Honourable member for Regina, Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, in last month's budget, the Finance Minister said he made tough decisions to find savings. So I was surprised and disappointed to learn that the CEO of Farm Credit Canada racked up $300,000 in travel expenses this year and last year. Furthermore, almost all of those expenses were within Canada to talk with FCC employees at their offices. Why can't FCC spend $20 on a Zoom subscription instead of $300,000 on the CEO's travel expenses?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I can assure you that the preparations leading up to this year's budget 2025, there was a comprehensive expenditure review that looked at all the operational possible savings that the federal government could make in order to invest in the Canadian economy, to ensure that we have a capital budgeting framework that ensures we achieve capital formation, that we grow the Canadian economy, that we attract investment, that we diversify our trade, that we build infrastructure, defense capabilities, and housing that Canadians want, that we can defend our sovereignty, that we can build an affordable future for all Canadians. That's exactly what this government is up to. We're building Canada strong.
The Honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, food prices are exploding. Groceries are up 4 to 6%, costing the average household as much as $1,000 more per year. Expert points to extreme weather events, supply shocks, and corporate greed. But Mr. Speaker, not only do the Liberals not have a climate plan, they keep protecting their corporate friends while people across Canada are starving for a fair deal at the checkout. When will the government act and deliver a real public option for food?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 set out to actually make life more affordable for Canadians, and this member voted against the very programs that are going to support families in her community. Budget 2025 cuts taxes for 22 million Canadians. It makes the National School Food Program permanent. It's going to deliver automatic tax filing for over 5.5 million Canadians. It makes generational investments in housing and infrastructure and supports important programs like the Canada Disability Benefit, Mr. Speaker. These are exactly the programs that are going to help families and make life more affordable for them and their kids.
The Honourable member for Courtney Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, coastal communities are running out of time. Key federal programs to protect wild salmon and restore critical habitat expire in March, and they weren't included in this budget. The government still has not confirmed renewal, and communities can't wait for a spring economic statement. On the West Coast, wild salmon are vital for food security, culture, the ecosystem, and the economy. First Nations, hatcheries, and restoration groups are doing the work, but they can't plan without federal certainty. It's essential that we don't take our foot off the gas. Will the minister renew these essential programs now?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to assure the member that the program funding does continue to March of 2026, and I am actively engaging with members across the country to talk about the effect of the program in their communities, what it is that was very strong and what it is that we need to look to into the future. Climate changes, the stock of salmon and other seafoods change, and we need to be able to align our programs to the reality in the waters and in communities. And I'm happy to continue to dialogue with that member.
That brings an end to question period. Ça met fin à la période de questions. I wish to inform the House that the volume of earpieces will now be reset. Daily routine of business. Tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government